It was just after sunset when Mark stumbled down the cracked sidewalk of Maple Street, his hood pulled tight against the chill. The streetlights flickered, weakly above him, casting long shadows that danced across the pavement. His stomach twisted from hunger, his hands trembling, not from the cold but from desperation. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, hadn't slept properly in a week. Tonight, he told himself, he'd do whatever it took. If you believe true kindness always finds its way back, please tap the like button now and subscribe to support more stories like this. At the end of the street stood a small house with a single light glowing in the front window. Curtains of faded lace framed the glass, and inside, an elderly woman moved slowly, setting a table for one. Through the window, Mark saw a bowl of soup steaming, a loaf of bread beside it, and his resolve hardened. That meal could be his ticket through the night. He waited until she turned away, then slipped through the gate, his footsteps silent on the path. As he raised his hand to knock, or maybe to shove his way in, the door creaked open. The woman looked up at him, her gray hair pulled neatly into a bun, her eyes soft but sharp. "Can I help you, son?" she asked. Mark froze. I just need some money," he muttered, his voice shaking. "Please don't scream." But she didn't. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she looked at him for a long, measured moment. "You look cold," she said gently, "and hungry." She stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Come in, dear. Let's get you something to eat." Her calmness disarmed him more than any weapon could. Confused, Mark hesitated, the knife in his pocket suddenly feeling like a weight of shame. "You're not afraid I'll hurt you?" he asked. "I see no reason to be," she said simply. "You're not here to hurt me, you're just lost." Mark followed her in, the warmth of the small home washing over him like mercy. The smell of soup made his knees weak. She guided him to a chair, placed a bowl before him, and sat across the table, her hands folded. "Eat," she said softly. As he ate, the silence filled the room like a prayer. Every spoonful seemed to chip away at the anger and hunger that had hardened his heart. She studied him quietly, her gaze gentle but searching. "You remind me of someone," she finally said. "Someone I once knew very well." Mark didn't look up. "Yeah? Probably one of the guys who took something from you too," he said bitterly. She shook her head. "No. Someone who gave me something I never forgot." She reached for a small photo frame on the side table and placed it in front of him. In the picture was a young boy, maybe 9 years old, with wild brown hair and a crooked smile. "That's my son," she said. "He got into some trouble years ago. Wrong friends, bad choices. One night he ran away. I never saw him again." Mark's hand froze midway to his mouth. The boy in the picture, those eyes, that scar above the brow, looked hauntingly familiar. His heart started pounding. "What was his name?" he asked quietly. Her voice trembled. "Ethan. Ethan Cooper." Mark's breath caught. He dropped the spoon, his chest tightening. "Ma'am, my name is Mark Cooper. My mom died when I was 8. My dad told me she left us. But..." He stared at the photo again. "That's me." The bowl clattered as he pushed back from the table, his eyes burning. "You're my grandmother?" The woman's hands trembled, her eyes filling with tears. She stood slowly, stepping toward him. "Oh, dear Lord," she whispered. "I prayed for years that I'd see him, or his family, again." Mark broke down then, collapsing into the arms of the woman he'd come to rob. She held him like she'd been waiting all her life to do it. The weight of every wrong choice, every lonely night, seemed to dissolve in that moment of grace. Hours later, they sat together on the old couch, a blanket over their knees. She told him stories about his father, the boy who had run away, gotten lost, but loved his son fiercely. Mark listened, tears streaking down his face. The life he thought had been nothing but pain suddenly had roots, meaning, and forgiveness woven into it. Before he left, she pressed a folded piece of paper into his hand. "My address," she said softly, "in case you ever want to come home again." He nodded, unable to speak, his throat tight with emotion. At the door, he turned back once more. "Thank you," he whispered. She smiled. "Thank you for coming back to me. We'd love to hear your story." What is the most memorable act of unexpected kindness you have witnessed or received? Share it in the comments below. As Mark walked back into the cold night, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not because he'd been fed, but because someone had seen the good in him before he could see it himself. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe because sometimes one act of kindness can change the story of an entire life.